What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. So, today is March 19th, 2025. Now, technically, it was on March 18th in 1995, which was yesterday, as far as 30 years ago, when Michael Jordan issued via his agent, via fax, the message that shook the basketball world and the sports world, hell, the world at that time. I'm back. And for Chicago Bulls fans, for sports fans, it was the return of his airness. It was the return of the true king of basketball. Now, look, don't get me wrong. The NBA was still doing okay without Michael Jordan. It was doing okay. But, and there had been a little bit of a change in landscape in just those short 18 months, 17, 18 months. We saw the arrival of stars like Grant Hill and Penny Hardaway, Jason Kidd, Jamal Mashburn, Jimmy Jackson, Shaquille O'Neal's coming to his own. The Orlando Magic team was starting to come to their own. We saw the rise of Reggie Miller and the Indiana Pacers. Kim Olajuwon had become the consensus best player on the planet. Matter of fact, that might be the last time that we could say a center was considered the best player on the planet. I mean, you could say Jokic, but I guess until Jokic, at least, he was the last one. And then I think about it, yeah, Jokic. But even with Jokic, there's some people that'll say, well, maybe the best player is Giannis or the best player is SGA. Whereas in 95, the consensus was it was Akeem. But anyway, beyond that, the basketball world was missing Michael Jordan, who, of course, had shockingly announced his retirement at age 30 back in October of 1993. Now, of course, at that time, unbeknownst to many, many sports fans, Michael Jordan was becoming burnt out. This is a guy that constantly played for challenges. And at this time, basketball was so easy to him that it no longer presented the same challenge that it had in the past. As a matter of fact, as I've read about Michael Jordan, initially, he planned on only playing about 9 years, 8 or 9 years, and then retiring and trying to become a professional golfer. That was one of the things I read about him back in the 80s. Going back to the 80s. As a matter of fact, in 1992, Michael Jordan confided in I think it was a Olympic personnel individual, whatever you want to call it, might be one of the assistant coaches, that he would have retired after 92, but what was driving him was to three-peat, which is something that his peers, Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, never achieved. But anyway, Michael Jordan retired, and I'm pretty sure, obviously, another factor in that decision was the tragic death of his father. And we all know what happened tragically to his father. And we saw Michael Jordan retire. We understood his reasons. But selfishly, as fans, we didn't want him to retire. You don't want to see the Michelangelo of basketball call it quits before he loses his skills, before his greatness subsides. You don't want to see that. I mean, that's exactly what he was. He was Michelangelo on the basketball court. And we first heard rumors. We didn't have social media back then. But, we had Slam Magazine. We had, sports radio shows. And we started hearing rumors. I would say I first started hearing rumors in early March. Because what happened was, I believe it was, remember something correctly, there was a strike going on in baseball. We all know that Michael Jordan went to play baseball. But with the work stoppage, we know he was playing for the Birmingham Barons, who were what was it? The triple. Well, I know they were the farm team. We put it like that. One of the farm teams of the Chicago White Sox, which is a team that Jerry Reinsdorf owned. But anyway, who of course was the owner of the Chicago Bulls at the time. But anyway, we started hearing reports about Michael Jordan playing basketball at the then United Center against B.J. Armstrong, who was the one guy that he kind of connected with. And, first it was nothing serious. He was just going out there playing basketball. But unbeknownst to us, Michael Jordan was getting that drive, that passion to play again that had went away. So then we started hearing about these rumors that he was being seen frequently practicing, like hard. It was almost like he wasn't just a routine, a routine visit where he just would play, but no, he was coming regularly playing basketball, full scrimmages, like as if he was really coming back to play basketball. And that was the rumors. But Phil Jackson would deny it. You weren't hearing anything from Michael Jordan, but he was regularly playing basketball. And, it was almost like, wait a minute, this is something going on here. And then, it really reached a crescendo, I would say a couple of days before he made that announcement, because it became more obvious then. He was starting being seen with the players, and, it was more and more intense, to the point where the rumors were then Michael Jordan, according to insiders, is returning to basketball. And I'm telling you, I remember that time we were like Chicago Bull fans. Like I said, it wasn't confirmed yet, but it was looking really good. And then came the announcement on March 18th. And I remember thinking as a Bulls fan, because we got to remember, in 93, 94, because much of the Bulls nucleus was still there, and Phil Jackson is a great coach, and they had an underrated coaching staff, they were still able to win a lot of close games. The Bulls had that championship pedigree, that championship experience. So they were able to still win a lot of close games that they probably shouldn't have won. So they still wound up winning 55 games. But with the loss of Horace Grant and a couple other players, you had a lot of new guys coming in, and the Bulls just weren't the same team. Scottie Pippen was a really good player, but he was not Michael Jordan. And the Bulls briefly fell under 500. And that's when you started seeing Scottie saying, "Come back, Mike, come back, Mike." A point to his Jordan saying, "Come back." And so as a Bulls fan, man, I'm telling you, we thought to ourselves, because we're still thinking, I'm a teenager at the time. I'm like, what about 14? So I'm thinking, man, Michael Jordan could come back and lead us to a championship, being naive, right? So he comes back. And they play the Indiana Pacers. And I think that was, correct me if I'm wrong, you can fact check me on this, but I believe that still might be the highest rated regular season game in the history of the NBA, if I'm not mistaken. If it's not, it's one of the top 2 to 3, but I think it's still the highest rated regular season game in the history of the NBA. And look, the truth was, he was kind of horrible in that game. He was horrible. At first, it wasn't known whether or not he would start. In hindsight, it may have been better if Michael Jordan came off the bench for a while, but you weren't going to, in reality, you're not going to have Michael Jordan come off the bench. So he came out there. He only shot 7 of 28 from the floor in that first game. He scored 19 points. And I can't remember whether or not the Bulls won or not. I think they lost. I can't remember whether they won or not. But just to have him back out there, and he was super rusty. Super rusty. Most of his jumpers were short. He was a little bit short on a layup, the layup that we always see in the footage from that game. I think it was a fast break layup where he was a little bit short. He was super, super rusty. And during that 17 game a regular season stint, he only shot 41% from the floor. Although, interestingly, he shot 50% from 3-point range. But he was super rusty. But he still showed flashes of what he could do. Just 5 games into his comeback, he dropped 55 points. But if you watch that game in the fourth quarter, which was a problem for him in that comeback year, he faded in the fourth quarter, which was uncharacteristic of Michael Jordan. Because remember, he had like 49 points in the first 3 quarters. He only scored 6 points in the fourth. And I think he missed 9. It was a stretch where he missed 9 out of 10 shots in that game, late down the stretch. That was partially because of the fact that he was not in basketball shape. Not saying he was out of shape, but over the year and a half of him playing baseball, he had developed a baseball player's body. Baseball players tend to be a little bit more sturdier, thicker thighs, a little bit sturdier. Basketball players tend to be a little bit lither, more athletic, thinner. He had lost the stick figure body that he had playing basketball those years. And basketball is more of a marathon, where baseball, I take that back. Basketball is more of a 400-meter dash game, whereas baseball is more of a marathon. It's a slower pace, right? So Jordan, in addition to being a little bit older, he was fading down a stretch of games. We especially saw that in the Orlando Magic series, where he did shoot 48% from the floor. He did average 31 points. I think he averaged I want to say 8 rebounds and 4 assists or something like that. But he also averaged 4 turnovers that series, which is uncharacteristic of Michael Jordan. So he worked really hard on this game during the offseason while he was filming the Space Jam movie, worked with NBA players like Reggie Miller. I think Grant Hill might have been one of those guys. And he wanted to really work on his craft because this is a guy that seriously took the challenge of people thinking he couldn't be the same or get back to the top of the game. Because I definitely remember the radio shows. He didn't have the media in his pocket. I remember a lot of radio shows. I remember a lot of people who were in my school at the time, right? High school, JM, John Marshall. We were saying look, Jordan was the guy, man, but he's no longer the guy. He's not that dude anymore. And I, to myself, didn't believe that. I felt like he was just very rusty. And while he might have to augment his game due to age, play a less athletic style of basketball, he has the skill set and the will and the drive to be the very best at his profession. He's still young enough to augment his game and still dominate, which is exactly what we saw the very next year. Plus, people also forget that the Chicago Bulls lost their man in the middle, and Horace Grant. And to make up for that loss, the Bulls acquired Dennis Rodman. Matter of fact, low key, I think they signed Dennis Rodman in September of '95. Low key, that was one of the underrated signings of that offseason. And then the rest was history. But it was 30 years today that Michael Jordan began the second Jordan era in Chicago. So what you guys think?
Cornmeal.